Hi and welcome to the TOTECS e-commerce platform. In the 18.2 TOTECS e-commerce platform release, we've added a new feature within the content managed websites that allows users to quickly add a list of products and quantities to their basket via a spreadsheet. A new content managed web page area has been created called the Product Add to Basket Spreadsheet Importer. Within the area, it allows one or more spreadsheet files saved in the CSV file format to be selected and have the list of those products from within that spreadsheet be added to an Add to Basket queue. The queue can then be processed to allow the products to be automatically added to basket in batches of 20 products at a time until the queue is fully processed or it can be aborted. Alternative users can paste the contents of a spreadsheet CSV file into the area's text area from where the list of products can be added into the queue and added to basket in bulk. In the spreadsheet CSV data provided, it needs to contain a column for the product code and optionally a column for the quantity. And if the quantity column is not set, then by default, the quantity set for each product will be 1. After a user clicks the button to process the queue, or the area is triggered to automatically process the queue, it will attempt to add each product and its quantity to the user's active basket. If a product fails to be added to the basket, then an error message can display indicating why that particular product failed and the reasoning behind it. This allows users such as sales reps and purchasing officers over time to build up a list of products that they wish to add to the basket from a spreadsheet, such as if they were on the road or completely offline. Then at a later stage, they can use the spreadsheet to import the product list into a shopping basket and finalize the order. The feature could also be used to export lists of products from large purchase orders and add those products to basket in bulk. This could be a big time saver for users. It could also be used to reorder the same products from predefined lists of products stored in spreadsheets, such as monthly or weekly orders. The area contains a setting that allows the user to optionally control how the CSV data is provided and can be read based on common CSV data formats that applications like Excel, Google Sheets, LibreOffice, and many other popular spreadsheet applications can support. It also can provide support from data coming from other legacy business systems. This area provides another feature that users can use to save time when purchasing through e-commerce websites and creating orders with a larger amount of products and known product quantities. Ultimately, this helps get products into the basket faster so that users can proceed through checkout and submit an order, allowing for less friction, and it can allow for more sales orders to be raised. To show you how this works, on our demonstration content manager website we have here, hosted on the platform, if I click on the checkout button, that will take me to a web page called Basket. And on this particular web page, we've decided to add a product add to basket spreadsheet importer area. By default, we have the area minimized, and only once the user clicks on this button to expand the area, then we have a few different options available to us. So the typical workflow is the user can click on the choose file button to then find a spreadsheet file. So in this example, I have a spreadsheet called product monthly order, and within this spreadsheet file, it has two columns, one called product code and the other one called stock quantity. So the product code has to have the list of the codes of our products that are already pre-known, and then we can also set the quantities of how much we want to order for each of those products. So once the user clicks on the choose file button, it will then read through that CSV file. If it finds the right column names, then it will add each of the product codes to the queue, and the queue will indicate if it was able to find the quantities for those products and the product code that it was found as well. And if we look at the CSV spreadsheet file in a text-based application such as Notepad on a Windows machine, we can see that the data is very simple. We have each cell is then separated by some kind of delimiter. That's hence why it's called a delimited values file. And in this case, it's using commas to delimit each of the different cell values. Now, different CSV file formats may use different delimiters. So they may use tabs or they may use colons. So when we choose the file format of the CSV file here, we have the different options of how that file is saved as. In LibreOffice, we have here the file is being saved as a comma delimited file, meaning each cell is delimited by a comma. So that would be the best option to choose. If we're on a Windows-based machine, there is a choice whether to save the CSV file in a Microsoft DOS file format, or if you're on a Mac, to use the Macintosh CSV file format. So it is important for the user to choose the right data format for the CSV file, so that way it gets read in correctly. Once the user has chosen the file and it can read the contents of the file, then the product codes will be added to the queue. If, for example, the columns are incorrectly named, so in this case, we've called the first column ITM. When we select the file, if it can't find the correct name of the columns that represent the product codes, then it will not add any products to the queue. So that's an indicator to tell the user needs to fix up the spreadsheet file columns. If it was unable to find the quantity column, time, then the quantities will default back to the value of 1. So that still allows these products to be imported, but it may not have the correct quantities that they put into the spreadsheet. So it's important that the user gets the column names correct for the importer to find the product rows and being able to add them to the queue. Once the products have been added to the queue, then the user can click the Add Queue Products to Basket, where it will then proceed to add up to 20 of these products in the queue at a time to the basket in one server request, and then it will show the status of those attempts made. If those products were successfully added to basket, then the products will now appear in any product basket listings area, as well as the summary areas will update with the products that were successfully added to basket. Now the user can choose one or more files, so they can select one spreadsheet file. In this case, it's adding 9 products to the queue. Then at a later time, they may want to add another spreadsheet file. So in this case, they can choose the second file, and now the queue updates with the original 9 plus the other 55 that were added into that file. So now our total queue size is at 65 products. Once the user clicks to add queued products to basket, then it will proceed through all the products in the queue in attempting to add them to the basket. As each set of 20 products is attempted to be added to the basket, the queue numbers will update and it will indicate how many products were successfully added as well as how many failed. And the user can then scroll down and view any of the products that had failed. So in this case, this particular product, the user had entered the incorrect quantity because this is a pack product. They needed to order 6 or a derivative of 6 in order to be able to add the required 6 quantities that make up each pack of that product. In this other example, the user didn't have permission to add that particular product. These other examples, the product code that they put in does not exist, or maybe it's an inactive product anymore, and so it's no longer being stocked. And here's an example where the quantity ordered exceeded the stock levels allowed, and the user did not have permission to be able to add any more quantities to the order. So it rejected that particular product. So then it's up to the user to go back through their spreadsheet and deal with these exceptional circumstances, or modify the spreadsheet such as if products are no longer being stocked anymore. And we can clear out the queue anytime we want, and then we can continually add more product records to it over time. Additionally, we can also add products to the queue by directly copying data from the spreadsheet files or from any other CSV source and paste it into the CSV text area that we have here. Now, in this example, we have to still put in the column name for the product code as well as the stock quantity. When it's copied from the spreadsheet, it hasn't put comma delimiters between the different cell values. It's put in a tab delimiters. So in this case, we have to change this setting from a comma delimited CSV data source to a tab delimited. If we left it as is, well, there's no commas within this data. So if we try to add the products to the queue, there's no separators. So in this case, this value here is considered the first cell of the data. So that's why it's putting the 1 or the quantities appending it to the product codes. That's because it's not finding any commas in the format of the CSV data. So to correctly set this, the user needs to change that from a comma delimiter to a tab delimiter. So it is a tab character that we have here that separates the cell values. Now if we click the add products to queue, we can see that it is correctly being able to find the quantity column as well as the product code column. And it's a similar story for if we're using comma delimiters or space delimiters. So if we're using spaces, we have to get rid of the space out of the product code because otherwise it would think it's code and product are the 2 separate column names. And so the data would now be spaces in between each of the cell values. And now this data is able to be correctly read since we're now using a space delimiter in our data format. Now there's a couple of settings in the area that we can optionally set. One is that when the user chooses a spreadsheet to add to the queue, that the queue can automatically instantly start adding those products to the basket, such as we had here. That's less clicks for the user, but it doesn't give the time for the user to properly check that the product code data and quantities had been added correctly. So it's optional if you want that kind of behavior. And the other option is the default option we should have for this spreadsheet data format. So if your website is mostly dealing with people who are using Apple Macs, the Mac option may be the better default option. It tries to play it safe with this generalized CSV comma delimited option, but it may not be always perfect. Or you could have multiple of these areas set up on different pages that allow users to click a button, take them to the page, and then have this option set, such as if they're using certain systems where the product codes come out as colon or tab delimited options instead. So that shows the capability that we have in this area. There's two different ways in which we can add products, product codes and quantities from a spreadsheet CSV files into a queue, and then from that queue we can then add products to basket in batches of 20 and allow many products to be quickly added to a user's shopping basket in a matter of seconds, as opposed for them to be manually adding products to basket on a one-by-one basis. Now, to see how to configure this area, if we go into the Administration Center and click on the Website's Navigation menu button, then click on the Content Manage Websites menu item. If we expand the website area Formats Libraries tree node and go down to the Shopping Basket area types, there is the new area type called Product Add to Basket Spreadsheet Importer, and there's two formats that we have available. So the Product Add to Basket Spreadsheet Import form, that is the format that controls all the styling and buttons that we have here in the overall area. So that includes the button to allow the user to choose the file, to allow the user to paste the CSV text directly, as well as the buttons to add the products to queue, and the header columns for the queue itself. If we go into that format, each of the different format hooks that we have available for both the buttons, the form inputs such as the select to be able to select the file, as well as the CSV file format, select drop-down form input, as well as the buttons for the queue, which we have, in this case we're using anchor tags, but we could use any other HTML element that allows an on-click JavaScript event to be put in place. For implementing the queue itself, we need to specify an element that has the ID that contains this format hook called the Product Add to Basket Queue element ID, and then the contents of that div is going to fill with each of the queued product records. If we want to show the counts of the products in the queue, how many have been added to basket and how many have failed, then we need to specify the format hooks that contain the IDs, which are then used to update those quantities. We can also optionally put in any other information that may help the user to understand how this functionality works, as well as any other heading and other HTML elements to support both small and large size screens. The second format we have available is called the Product Add to Basket Queue record. This is the format that controls how each of these product records in the queue should be structured and display. In this format, we have format hooks where we need to place the product code element ID, as well as the quantity element ID, which will be updated with the actual quantities as products are being added to basket. We have format hooks that need to be placed in elements that identify the different types of statuses that each of the queued product records can have, which is the waiting, currently adding to basket, the failed response, as well as the success response. So those IDs are used in order to then update the classes, and then we can place CSS styling to control how these particular statuses will change. In this case, we're using green text to just show a successful response and orange color to show a failed response, and that's all through using CSS classes we've put into these elements, and these IDs are used to change these particular elements should show, or the display attribute should be set to show or to hide. It is recommended to put in the HTML styling so that way this works on both large and small size screens. So that's it for the setting up the formats. The next part is we need to add the Product Add to Basket Spreadsheet Importer area to a Content Manage web page. In our example, we've got a page called Basket. If we go into the View All Areas, within that we've added the Product Add to Basket Spreadsheet Importer area, and there's two settings that are available. There's the initial spreadsheet data format, where we can choose which of those CSV file formats we want to have as the default when the area first loads, as well as whether or not once a user selects a file or immediately adds a product to the queue, it should automatically try to start adding the products to basket. So generally I recommend that setting it to no, so that way the users can see what's in the queue before they start trying to add the products. And then once this area has been created, in the area settings, we need to, within the set formats, we need to make sure that we assign the relevant formats that we've created previously to the area. And after that, then we have our Product Add to Basket Spreadsheet Importer area on the page and ready for users to be able to use this functionality. If you wish to learn more about this capability and all the other great functionality that is developed in the 18.2 or any other platform releases, if you go to the TOTECS.html website, click on the resources menu button, and then click on the forums menu item. Within the TOTECS e-commerce platform's releases forum, you can click on any of the releases, such as the TOTECS platform release 18.2, where you can find all the details about this new capability, and all the other new functionality and improvements we added in that particular release can be found there as well. If you need help implementing this on your website, or you have any other questions, comments, please contact the TOTECS service team or leave a comment in the forums. Until next time, have a good one.